Marty Griffin here. Edward McDonald told neighbors he was depressed, said he was hearing voices, was worried about the end of the world, called 911 for help, called for help, was taken to a local hospital, was turned away. You think that's unusual? You think that's unusual? How about Eric Bruno out of Erie? This is a great case in point. If he needed stitches or an antibiotic, help would be right there. But he's schizophrenic, right? And he can't get the care he needs to make his mind healthy. It's an American tragedy. And every single time a city block burns, every single time somebody kills themselves or someone else, we have this same darn conversation, and nothing seems to change. At the forefront of the battle to make this work, Congressman Tim Murphy. Congressman, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Wow. This Homestead fire, sir, you have seen this so many times to the point it makes you sick.
It does. Sickens, anger, frustrated. We need to stop avoiding the obvious here and get down to this. Here is a man who asked for help in Homestead. Now there's a crime committed. Now there has to be time for this. But he asked for help. He was turned down because we see this so often that in the criminalization of mental illness, there's become one where the hospitals say, unless you're going to harm yourself or someone else, we're not going to make you stay. And if you put yourself in here, we can't keep you because it doesn't appear serious enough. It's like a catch-22. Well, if you're sane enough to tell us you have a problem, you don't have a problem. But if you're so insane that you don't think you have a problem, we can't keep you unless you're going to kill somebody. And so what we end up with is we have closed down the Mayviews and so other places around the state and provided no place for care for these folks. They end up living in impoverished housing, impoverished neighborhoods with very little support. Very little ongoing care because we've also cut mental health care on the outpatient basis. There's no mechanisms to get people into care who are hallucinating and delusional and don't even know what reality is. And you end up with most people with mental illness are not violent. Many of them are subjects to violence and crime and assault. And then you have some of these types of folks who have a history of some more larger difficulties, and they end up with some terrible situation like this. Thank goodness nobody was killed or hurt in this, but nonetheless, it once again spells out why are we ignoring this and criminalizing mental illness. It's awful.
Congressman Tim Murphy, who will be praised this morning for his efforts to change this system. Also, Congressman, I'm hearing this morning you're going to reintroduce your legislation Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act, and this young man I spoke about who is schizophrenic and his mom wants to create change, she's going to speak. So a lot happening today, sir.
That's right. She's from Erie, talking about her son, Eric, who is in jail, and he should be in a hospital. But once you commit a crime, that's what we do. And then, unfortunately, then you get into jail, you're not getting sufficient supportive help. Maybe they switch your medications on you. There's been situations where they found that people who are 10 times more likely to be in jail than they are in a hospital, and then they end up being in fights, assaulted, tasered. They tend to spend 4 times more time on their sentence than a person who is not mentally ill. The list goes on and on. It's a scourge and a shame on our society that this is what we've done. People with mental illness. So my bill, I'll reintroduce it to try and change. Well, we are going to change the way that our country deals with this. Marty, I'll tell you something. I was looking at the number of federal agencies that deal with severe mental illness. It is astounding. I thought maybe there'd be 10 or 20, and that would be bad enough. There's 112.
My God.
112 federal agencies that don't talk to each other, don't work together. We're going to release a report on this in a couple weeks. So it's not like the federal government isn't spending money, but we create those barriers to say, well, we're going to do these little things, we're going to housing here and substance abuse help here and these other things. People don't talk to each other. They don't work together. These budgets keep getting cut, and we don't have the services there. But the biggest barrier of all is parents are not allowed to get involved, and people aren't getting in hospital beds. Medicaid says we're not not going to have enough hospital beds. You can't see two doctors on the same day. The list goes on and on. The laws have crippled the system, and this is the outcome that comes from it.
By the way, he said a couple things that you folks might not have grasped. You can't see, under the current rules, two doctors in one day, and there are 112 federal agencies that deal with mental illness. Hey, to use a word from the business itself, that's psychotic, Congressman.
Oh, it's bizarre. And what they keep doing is inventing new programs. Now, within the programs, and we also see bizarreness. So one of the big ones is called SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. What's interesting today, instead of working on things like schizophrenia and bipolar and severe depression, which they don't even mention in their 40,000-word document describing their function. Remember, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, that's their name. They did take time to make sure they have a crisis hotline out today to help people dealing with the snow. Now, I'm thinking, what are our priorities? I mean, snow. Okay, you have snow. You stay home, you play in it, you stay safe, you stay warm, you prepare yourself. The community helps you if there's power failures. But they've got a crisis hotline to help people with anxiety and sadness about snow. Where are our priorities? Why not have a crisis hotline for someone who is severely depressed, who someone is hearing voices, for someone who's saying, I need medication, I can't help it. This is the kind of bizarre priorities that the government has set, because you got people in there who have this old 1960s kind of, mystical concept of mental illness. They don't recognize it's a brain illness.
Congressman, let me interrupt you. They have a crisis hotline set up for people who have anxiety about snow, sir?
Yes, they do. They do. Yeah, you can find it. It's pretty amazing. And then it goes into all kinds of other things there. You can call it, I guess. And I'm concerned about the snow and the weather. It's just beyond me. And then spending time on that, they're not spending time on where it should be spent. In a couple weeks, we'll announce we're going to do a hearing on a lot of these things and why such people, it's in the news every day, can't get help. They should be in help hospitals, not jails. They should be getting treatments, not being pushed aside and saying there's no room for them.
Congressman Murphy, we're spot on with you on this. Whatever you need, sir, let me know.
Thanks so much, Mark. Have a good day.
Congressman Tim Murphy. So think about it. This young man